So last week we were playing with the Padangusthasana A, B, and C series, the standing on one leg with balance while our one leg is out, and then twisted. We're going to play with that a little bit more today to get to somewhere different. One thing that I have today, though, is it's like taking that same pose but combining it or changing its relationship to the floor, which in yoga happens quite a bit, where you do pretty much the exact same thing, but instead of standing on one foot, it's a hand and a foot on the floor, and we call it something different. So we're playing with Padangusthasana A, B, and C, and very similarly, those three poses, those three shapes, look very similar to supported warrior 3 here is Padangusthasana A. Half moon is pretty much like Padangusthasana B, and reverse half moon is pretty much Padangusthasana C. The thing that I want us to be aware of when we're doing that, if we're getting into it, if it feels right for everybody, welcome. Let me get you a blanket, strap in 2 blocks, is the pressure that can be there on the leg. So our leg is rooted pretty deeply into our hip socket, and then if we're moving around a lot in that space, it might bring some uncomfortable feelings. And so one thing that we typically do or can do is to bend the knee so that we release the muscles and tendons and everything that's connected here in the body. So there is a little less pressure on, there you go, a little less pressure that is there on the hips and the leg. And the other thing that we can do as well is to put more support into the hands so that we're not just moving things around from the leg with everything deeply connected in the way that it is, but to give a lot of support so there's more lift elsewhere and there's less down energy on the body that's getting into the hip. And so a little bend to the knee can really free up some space, and being really strong and grounded in the blocks to support yourself also means that we don't have to try to move on the leg and just relying on that to both stand and to make the movements. We can see how it feels for everybody when we get to that point, and if it is like this doesn't feel great, then we can back off of that and do something a little different, but something to think about, at least for today. Same as last week, we've got the walls that are here as well. If you find it difficult to balance in A, B, and C, we have the wall you can lean into. You can have a hand to stabilize yourself there so that you are still playing some with balance and building that awareness in the body for that, but also have the experience of feeling more stable in the hip opening and all the other pieces to the puzzle that is Padangusthasana A, B, and C. And we'll move that into something a little different when we get further down toward the end of our practice. So something just to keep in mind. But while we're still getting started here, just check in and see how it feels in your body, in your seat. And if you've been seated here for a little bit, and the knees and the hips are opening, and it feels nice to move around a little bit and just make some small adjustments, let yourself come to your practice in a way that feels or embodies this idea of easy seat or Sukhasana pose. And as you do so, you can let your eyes come closed or your gaze become soft and unfocused. Oops, where's the thing here? Hello to everybody else online. While we're getting started, if you missed part of it, blocks can be helpful today. Strap and a blanket. So check in with how this feels. Just be there with yourself and in your breath. There's the dashboard. And our breath becomes our first step to turning inward and to really bringing ourselves into our practice. Let the breaths be deeper down into the torso and fuller. And you can say, just as you are, if this feels just where you need to be for another minute here with breath. Palms down as just a more grounded sort of intention. But you can also bring your hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra. And if you're doing that, notice what happens and changes through the shoulders. Probably we want to lift the shoulders a little bit more intentionally toward the ears and then settle them down the back. And if you're in Anjali Mudra, press palms into each other and start to feel that activation and that strength and engagement through the upper parts of the torso. Again, still breathing deeply and fully. And one more round of breath just like this. The exhale, releasing anything that you've noticed is distracting, either sensations or thoughts. With the next in-breath that comes in, hold that space, fresh air, fresh prana, filling in the openness. And the next exhale, as the air rises up and out, let the chin lift and the eyelids lift and follow the breath up. Release hands down by your sides. Make any little adjustments you might need to in your seat, and this may be a place where you ask yourself or give the space to sit up on a bolster, or, well, we have bolsters too, but a block or blanket. Lean back a little bit, extend the legs out here. For Dandasana pose, we started this last week a little bit like this as well. You can have a little bend to the knees if it is really tight or feels uncomfortable for the legs to be long and fully stretched in the back. Whether you have your legs extended or not, we're pressing the heels down and we're trying to hug the heels back toward the hips as we keep letting the inner thighs get heavier with the feet flexed, pushing through the balls of the feet, letting the toes spread if you would like to. And what happened to the sounds here? And if you would like to, that's interesting. Let's go back to the beginning. Finish. If you're sitting a little bit more upright, you might start to walk the hands in a little bit closer to you. So you are sitting more upright. And whether you have the knees bent or not, can you take the arms forward instead of supporting yourself? Notice what changes here in the body. What's happening? There we are. Draw shoulders onto the back and keeping your core strong, so that cue of belly button drawing in and up, not overly so, but just enough to feel there's some engagement here. Helps to draw the low ribs in and stay connected. You'll feel your front body contract. Can you keep that activation as you start to lift the arms overhead? Maybe getting to a space where the biceps are framing out the ears, noticing the tendency of the body to want to start to move into a back bend, and how activating our fire here keeps us more neutral through the spine. Let the shoulders draw down the ears, lift here a little bit more through the heart, lengthen out through the crown of the head. And on the next exhale, reach the hands wide as they come back down to the floor. Draw both heels in about halfway. Let the knees open wide and bring the soles of the feet to touch in an early Baddha Konasana. If you need the extra support, you can always have blocks underneath the knees, the shins, wherever they might be, if that just feels nicer. And thumbs alongside the fingers as you take hold of the fronts of the ankles, the shins, or the knees. And as you draw shoulder blades onto the back, feel yourself draw forward a little bit more. Reach out through the right knee to the right and down to the floor. Reach out to the left through the left knee and let it be a little heavier, reaching down to the floor. And if you would like to, you can make some little movements that start to give us a little bit more warmth and openness here through the hips to open them up. Not coming into a deep forward fold here, anything but just noticing how this feels in the hips. Specifically here so we can set up with more of a twist. And so on our next in-breath, we're going to take our right hand off to the right hip, maybe a little bit behind it. And on the exhale, left hand finds right knee and draws us into the twist a little bit. The inhale tries to draw us out a little bit. The next exhale, if you would like to, with more intention, draw yourself deeper into the twist. Notice how this feels on the left side of the torso, where we're getting a little more of a stretch here. Right side is contracting. One more breath. If there's a little more depth, feel free to do so. Maybe if it feels all right on the neck, even taking your gaze over the right shoulder and looking back behind yourself. Good. Inhale to center. Pause for the breath. Next inhale, left hand goes off to the left. On the exhale, right hand finds wherever you would like to reach on that left leg to draw yourself into the twist with the exhale. The inhale to come out a little bit. The next exhale to move in a little deeper. Find that pulsation. One more full round. Next round, if you would like to, you can take your gaze off to the left behind the shoulder, back behind yourself if you would like to. In-breath that follows comes back to center. Take the knees, bring them both to meet. Roll off to your side, come into tabletop position. And if you'd like to take a couple of rounds of cat-cow breathing just to get started, do so. Depending on how it feels in your body, though, you may start to move a little more quickly in coming into Balasana pose. Not because we're already ready to rest and relax, but because then we get a space to evenly stretch out both sides of the low back in the same way, arms overhead in the same way, or else if you have arms back beside you, both the shoulder blades coming apart in the same way, just moving into a place of greater symmetry in our bodies. And if you're still in cat-cow, let your next inhale from cat bring you to neutral, and very intentionally spend 3 breaths in Balasana or child's pose. The toes untucked, the knees can be wide, they can stay parallel to each other. It is your choice, your body, and your variation of the pose. Notice where the breath has to move. With our focus more of hips or sit bones to heels. We get deeper stretch into the glutes, deeper stretch here into the quads, through the knees. And if you have the arms back beside you, bring them overhead once again. And we'll all press palms down. Feel like the armpits and outer shoulders lift a little bit away from the floor. And with the hands firmly grounded, isometrically draw them or try drawing them back toward the knees to pull yourself forward into a table. Bring your knees back to parallel, tuck the toes, and on your next inhale, we're going to rise up to down dog. I'm going to start moving here a little bit quicker. Kind of pedal through the legs, anything that feels good, just for 3 breaths. Then we come into our sun salutation B here in just a second. We'll add a little remix in here. Your next in-breath, get really high on the heels. Walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. Make use of the blocks if that helps you to get more stretch through the backs of the legs. Less focus here on the deeper forward fold at this moment because hamstrings can get in the way of that. And we're just getting started here. And keeping the hands to the floor or blocks on the inhale, make the arms straight and come up as much as you need to for the arms to be fully straight. Take a look at your toes, second toes of both feet pointing straight forward. Grounding down through the inner edges of both feet as you send the inner thighs back. And on the exhale, as you draw your
activate your core, you're going to draw yourself forward into the forward fold rather than releasing into it and letting gravity draw you down slowly. Good. On your next exhale, keeping the hands to the floor or blocks, bend the knees deeply, sitting your hips back as far and deep as you can with the hands down. You can adjust that as you need to. There are options here as we move through the flow. For some of us, maybe keeping belly and thighs connected, but reaching the arms overhead. You'll feel yourself have to sit back a little bit to counterbalance that. And then full variation of Utkatasana here, standing down into the feet, but keeping the knees bent as we reverberate, rise, lengthen, expand up in your chair pose. Maybe sit back and down just a little bit more. And on the inhale, as we stand down through the feet, get tall in your tall mountain, maybe lift the heels. Good. Exhale, let your heels find the floor. Release hands down by your side. Good. Sun Salutation B. On your in-breath, reach up and overhead. Good. Rather than rising up into chair pose, on the exhale, sit back and down into your chair pose, noticing whatever differences are there just in the way that we get into the pose. And on our next exhales, we bend the knees deeply, bring more of belly to thigh, and exhale, come into the forward fold. Just one full breath in your forward fold. Inhaling and exhaling, and the next inhale, come up just enough to step one foot back and then the other for plank. We'll throw in some three-legged planks here. If you would like to, you can always bypass those if they do not feel right for you. But plank is our starting pose here for the rest of the sequence in our our sun salutation. See that your front pointer fingers are both pointing straight forward or slightly wider toward the front right and left corner of the mat. And on the exhale, you can lower knees if you need to. Exhale, lower halfway down, Chaturanga Dandasana, knees down or not. You can fully lower to the floor for pranam and come into cobra. You can untuck the toes here in your chaturanga and inhale, rise up for up dog. Good. Exhale to come back down to the floor or chaturanga. Push down into the right foot, lift the right knee, lift the left leg, and as you push through the hands, rise up through three-legged plank, back to three-legged dog. And on the exhale, we're going to lower that left foot to meet the right, but just keep it hovering ever so slightly away from the floor. So if there was a line going across the back of your mat, both your right and left toes would be in line with it. Then as we hug left heel deeper into the left hip socket, so we're floating the left foot, use your core work, your core strength to try to draw that left foot forward one footprint without stepping down. Yeah, oh, sorry, we're coming forward. You're using core to draw one footstep forward. Ugh. Inhale, up and back, three-legged dog. We'll do it a second time here. On the next exhale, take a big step forward with the left foot. You can bring your back knee down if you need to in Anjaneyasana, or inhale, rise up. Good, just take one breath. What we're trying to do here is with this little bit of floating action, doing all the core work to hug the foot forward. Bring it back, set it down. All right. Next, exhale. Frame out that foot. Step back to down dog. Hug left heel to left sit bone so your foot lifts a little bit away from the floor. Now find that activation, that strong core work, to draw the foot just a little bit forward. Notice how much work it is. Good. Bring that foot back down. Push yourself forward to a plank. Lower chaturanga or fully to the floor. Inhale for cobra or up dog. Exhale back to the floor or chaturanga. Keep the left foot grounded, knee lifted. Lift the right leg a little bit away from the floor and push up through three-legged plank, back to three-legged down dog. And on the exhale, we're going to bring right foot to meet where the left is, but let it float, so just a little bit away from the floor. That right heel is hugging into the right hip without the right hip really lifting. And just using your core muscles here. On the exhale, try drawing that right foot forward, keeping the leg straight. Notice how much work and effort it is. Inhale, up and back, three-legged dog. On the exhale, step through to the lunge. If you need the back knee down, do so. Otherwise, on the inhale, rise up, crescent lunge, or a low lunge if you need the back knee down. One full breath. Exhale to come back down as you're ready. Step back to down dog. If you want to try that one more time here, starting in down dog with both feet on the floor to start, draw right foot a little bit up and away from the floor by just drawing the leg deeper into the hip socket. Core work once again on the right side to hug the foot forward. Inhale to step it back. Take 3 breaths here. Good. As you get to the end of your third breath, the exhale, walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. Good. Have your blocks there. Starting with your forward fold. On the next exhale, bend the knees deeply, and on the inhale, rise up to your variation of chair pose, Utthita. And on the inhale, as you stand down through the feet, get tall once again. If it feels really nice on the legs, why not? Lift the heels one more time. And on the exhale, the heels find the floor. Let the hands come to settle beside you. And inhale, reach up and overhead. On the exhale, with a little bend to the knees, just starting to notice how this feels through the hips. Hinge forward through the hips, staying long through the spine. Bring hands to the blocks. Come to straighten the right leg a little bit more, if you would like to. And on the inhale, we're going to send the inner left thigh up and back to bring the leg toward parallel. So a couple of weeks ago, we were playing with one-legged crow. We're not going to do that today, but very similar things happening here. That leg can be heavy, the foot can be inactive. Otherwise, we can keep that foot flexed and strong and lift through the inner left thigh. Push into the blocks through both hands. And this here is very much supported warrior 3. Padangusthasana A, face down, we can call it. Some of us will choose to stay here just like this. Otherwise, on the exhale, keeping that left leg lifted and strong, start to bend the elbows to fold in, something more like a standing forward fold. Ekapada Prasarita Padasana, if you need something to distract you from sensations. And on the next exhale, for anyone who would like to go a little deeper in this intermediate class, rather than hands on the blocks, take your right hand to take hold of the back of the right ankle or calf. Notice how that feels. Maybe bring the left hand to the back of the right ankle or calf on top of the right. And so now we're balancing in our forward fold. It's a lot, I know. And if you're in the balancing portion, bring your hands back to the blocks. Keep lifting through the inner left thigh as you start to bend the right leg to bring that back foot to the floor. Crescent lunge. Heel stays lifted. Inhale, rise up. Good. Find depth in that lunge through the front knee. Maybe that back knee or back foot scoots back a little bit, but keep lifting through the inner back thigh. And on the exhale, either arms staying overhead without support, or bring your hands to frame out that foot for support. Ground down through the feet, hug them toward each other, hug inner thighs together, and as you find your fire, slowly lower back knee to the floor into Anjaneyasana. And in Anjaneyasana, we are sending more of our sit bones, specifically that right sit bone, more toward the right heel, right ankle. Good, and staying here, or for one breath on the inhale, lifting through the heart, adding a little bit of a back bend here, but maintaining that fire. Inhale to rise back up. Hands to blocks or the floor. Lift the back knee. We're going to stand through that right foot. Come back to supported warrior 3. And on the exhale, bring your left foot to meet the right. Little bend through both knees. Let belly and thighs connect. Take hold of opposite elbows and let yourself hang over. We're going to try that on the second side now. Your next in-breath, come back to a more active forward fold. Legs long, hands to blocks or the floor, probably the blocks here. Put more weight into the left foot. Let the right foot float a little bit like we were doing in our down dog. And on your next inhale from the inner right thigh, send that leg long, strong, and engaged back and up behind you. Notice how this side feels different. We have 3 points of connection to the floor. We won't have that in our Padangusthasana A. Either choosing to stay here or on the exhale, bending the elbows and starting to fold in. Choosing to stay there, or maybe left hand takes outer left ankle or calf. Find your balance. Maybe right hand comes on top of the left and reaches through the inside of the ankle or thigh. Good. Your inhale that follows, bring ourselves back to the blocks. With that right leg staying just as engaged and strong as it is now, left knee starts to bend, right foot finds its way back behind you, and inhale, rise up for crescent. Choosing to stay here, or framing out that foot, and then doing all the work of drawing into your midline, feet toward each other, inner thighs toward each other. Keep lifting and reaching through the hands as that back knee descends to the floor. Once it does, press down, hug forward. And on the next exhale, deepen the lunge through the front knee. And pause. And next inhale, lift through the heart. If you like to start to take this into a back bend, that core is strong, and that activation through the legs gives us length, supports the low back, and makes us a safer and more stable back bend. Inhale to come back up. Let your hands find the blocks. Lift the back knee. Stand through the right or the left foot to rise back up. And on the exhale, bring both feet to meet. Let yourself fold over in your forward fold, Uttanasana. Good. So now we're going to come into that sequence that I very quickly ran through and showed in the beginning. Roll up the spine or rise up through chair if you would like to, however you want, to come up to have a stand in your mountain pose. So one of the things that does have to change here that helps to make this a little bit more stable is the placement for the blocks. So for supported warrior 3, really great to have the blocks underneath the shoulders. When we start to move into a twist or into Ardha Chandrasana, if the block is too close, like we play with balance sometimes, and it makes it a lot more wobbly. So wider with the blocks, further forward with the blocks, so you have a bigger foundation to start first with finding stability, and then we always have options of making it more difficult if we would like to, after we found like our space in it. So we'll keep that in mind here. So with our blocks starting where we had them just a second ago. Inhale, reach up and lengthen. On the exhale, a little hinge from the hips to fold and reach forward. Once you have the blocks, lengthen the legs as much as you can. Push very firmly into the blocks. And with the right foot staying grounded, let the left foot hover. Shrink, get a little shorter on that side because of all the effort of hugging heel to hip. And again, from the inner left thigh, send that leg up and back. Let the shoulder blades hug toward each other so the heart is melting here a little bit. Also a cue that we want to keep in mind when we're doing this more standing. Padangusthasana A, face down, is supported warrior 3. Put a little bend to that right knee so we can free up some space. Put a lot more weight into the right hand and the right block as you slide that right block wider to the right. Then lifting the outer left hip. Start to spin the hips towards the left hip toward the sky. You can bring your left hand to your left hip. You can reach your left hand to the sky. This is a little bit like Padangusthasana B. Keep that extended leg strong. Keep that foot strong. Lift from the inner thigh. Nice. On your next exhale, put another bend into your standing leg. Keep that left leg just as engaged as it is. That block doesn't really matter where it is because we're focusing here more on the left. Left hand pushes into the block. Right hand finds right hip. Re-straighten and lengthen the right leg. And on the exhales, you push into the block with the left, almost like you're trying to push or scoot the block more to the left. Let that energy and that action twist the torso toward the standing right leg. Maybe right hand reaches towards the sky. And nice with the check there on the hips. Nice, everybody. And next inhale, come back to center. Bring both feet to meet. We're just going to take a little bit of time to come off the legs that way. Bring your hands to the floor, step both legs back for plank. Exhale fully to the floor. You can take chaturanga if you would like to. If you're coming to the floor, take cobra. If you're doing chaturanga, come into your up dog. On the exhale, lower back down. Tuck the toes. No three-legged anything. Push through the heels to lift the knees, though, if you would like to rise up through plank. Otherwise, keep the knees down and rise up through table, finding your way ultimately into down dog with the rest of us. And coming into a little bit of a side stretch here. If side plank is not right for your wrist, shoulder, elbow, whatever it might be, you're going to lower down to tabletop, all right? Inhale 3/4 of the way into plank, so the shoulders stay behind the wrists. If you're coming down into table, you're going to bring the right knee down and take the right foot a little bit wider off the floor and come to the inner edge of the left foot. If you're in plank, you're going to come onto the outer edge of the right foot, inner edge of the left. Put a lot of weight into both hands. Keep both feet active so that the ankles are lifting away from the floor. And on the next inhale, with more weight in the right hand, take left arm to the sky, side plank. Keep that shoulder on the back on the right side. Keep that shoulder on the back on the left side. And then reach your left hand toward the front of the room like we're taking a crescent stretch on our sides. So it's a little more obvious if we're in full plank, but we're lifting, we're pushing the outer right hip to the sky to find that crescent shape. Good. Inhale to come back to plank or table. You can bring the knees down for a second if you need to, otherwise staying in plank. For those of you who are doing side plank with support on this side, it will be left knee down, left foot out to the side, right foot spins down. Otherwise, rise back up to plank if you've come out of it. Roll to the outer edge of the left foot, inner edge of the right. Stabilize through the legs so the ankles are neutral and strong. And with all of the weight now in the left hand and both feet, take your right arm straight up to the sky. A side plank variation. And maybe here, another 2 breaths. Reach your right fingertips toward the front of the room, bicep alongside the ear. Start to really contract on the left side of the body to send the hips up and to get a deeper stretch on the right side. And on your next inhale, come back down to plank or table. Table. If you're in plank, come back to down dog. If you're in table and need to be there for another breath or two, do so. And in another breath or two, all of us will find ourselves Uttanasana, top of the mat once again. However you want to get there. Walk, step, hop, or jump. Move through the flow. Getting into second side here, right? Yes. Good. Inhale, rise up for mountain. And have your blocks out in front of you once again.
Inhale, reach up and lengthen, side two. Little bend to the knees. Strong through the core as you reach forward. Hands find the blocks. Make your forward fold more active here through the legs and through the hands. Head grounding down through the right foot this time. Left foot hovers. Is that the same as last time? Yes. All right, other side. Left foot down, right foot hovers. On the inhale, send that right inner thigh up and back. Keep the foot strong as if you're trying to put your complete footprint onto the wall behind you. And just another breath. Coming into Ardha Chandrasana. Take your left block further to the left and a little further forward. And with a little bend in that standing knee, take the right hip more to the sky so that the right hip is opening. Our toes are pointing off to the right. Right hand reaches up to the sky. Ardha Chandrasana. Push out through the heel. That seems like a stronger side for some people. Nice. Making the transition on the next exhale, spin back down by loosening up that knee. Whatever happens with the left block, keep it right where it is. Push your hand into the right block, and as you're pushing down, think like you're trying to drag the block further to the right, to push, to draw, to send the outer right torso toward the inner left thigh. Arm reaches overhead. Parivrtta Ardha Chandrasana. Good. Next inhale, we unwind. Bring both feet to meet. You are welcome to step back into down dog or however you would like to get into table. If you like something a little bit more active in our transition to the floor here, remove the blocks, sit back and down into your chair and rise up. Probably walk a couple of steps back toward the center of your mat. Sit your chair even deeper. Get to that point where your deeper chair asks the heels to lift, push into the balls of the feet. And as you come a little bit more upright, sit down a little further. And as you start to send the knees forward, lean back ever so slightly just to counterbalance, to bring knees to the floor. Hands to the thighs, here in Vajrasana. You can place a block between the ankles if you need to. Coming here into Ustrasana, camel pose. A little differently than how we typically get into it. We'll see how it feels. I'll give the cues for the people who would rather come into it, settling back into it rather than rising up into it. So we'll bring our arms to our sides here, just like mountain pose, but here in Vajrasana. Find this openness and this space through the fronts of the shoulders. Bring your hands to take hold of the heels. Lift here a little bit more through the heart. And as you push into the balls of the feet, start to send the hips forward as we rise up. Hips keep moving forward. Activate. Stay strong here through your core. So you're rising up into your Ustrasana. If that doesn't feel right for anybody as you've been in it, we come to stand on the knees. We still find our mountain pose. We can lift through the heart and not make that connection to the heels if we don't want to. Good. On the inhale, if it felt okay rising up from it, rather than coming up off of the hands, can you start to settle the hips back toward the heels? Sit back into Vajrasana. Release hands to your thighs. Catch your breath. Now time. If you would like to take one more Ustrasana, you're welcome to. You're welcome to come into it here. As I was saying, taking hold of the heels, staying strong, lifting and rising up forward and toward the sky to rise to your Ustrasana. Or if you would like to, untuck the toes, take the heels a little bit wider than the hips, settling back into Virasana, which is deeper through the knees, to have a block there if you need to. And in your Virasana, turning this into a little bit more of a back bend, like what we could be doing in Utthita, walk the hands back behind you. You might walk the hands a little further back. You might come onto forearms. Lift through the heart. Keep the chin and chest magnetized toward each other. And as you reach out through the crown of the head, you can start to tilt the chin up so the crown of the head descends. Maybe the crown of the head finds the floor. Or Ustrasana, camel pose. Feel into your body and what you need for yourself. Good. So we're stretching here through the front side of the body to start. If you're in Virasana, whether you have the knees wide or not, we're hugging to center. We're doing the adduction work to look out for the low back. And you'll put more weight into the hands. You'll lift through the crown of the head so the head comes off of the floor. Start to walk yourself up, or if you're in camel pose, come out of your camel pose. We'll all walk ourselves forward into table. And in table, we'll cross at the ankles or the shins, sit back, or you can take feet to one side, hips to the other, whatever feels right for you, to come to have a seat with your legs, knees bent, heels down, toes out in front of you. Good. Inhale, reach forward. Let the shoulders come off the back to start. Notice how that roundedness, that cat shape starts to happen through the back here. We want to find more of a cow stretch shape. So we're going to draw shoulder blades on the back. Heart is forward. Lift through the crown of the head. And as you ground down through the sit bones, stay strong through your core as you draw one knee or both knees towards your chest. Heart reaches forward as the knees come forward. Next inhale, maybe lift shins parallel to the floor. If you would like to draw knees towards the outer shoulders, take yogic toe lock if it's part of your practice. And on the inhale, as you push through the heels, lengthen the legs. Both inner thighs now are moving heavy down to the floor. Heart has to lift. It's a lot more wobbly. Good. I always love when there's people smiling in this pose. On the exhale, release your heels to the floor. Release your hands by your side. You can extend your legs out, shake them around. Rather than leaning back, start to walk your hands forward and come more into staff pose or Dandasana. Like we were at the beginning of class, we're probably not seated up on anything for most of us, I think most of us. And so just notice how it is to have your legs long, maybe less of a need to have the knees bent. Already a sign of some progress and change that is happening. We're getting into some of the core work because we have that option that we did last time in rising up into A, B, and C with our core work. On the exhale, bend the knees once again. Again, you can take them to one side. You can cross at the ankles. However you'd like to come into a down dog. If you're really craving the flow, move through a vinyasa flow. Otherwise, stay here in your down dog, or you can jump ahead to standing in Uttanasana while everyone else catches up. And once you find yourself at the top of your mat, you're going to bring your strap with you. And so our strap will be true whether we want to do core work to rise up or not. Everyone's rising up right now, so we'll show in a second what I'm asking for some people who were not here last week or just aren't familiar with this. We're going to have two options in coming into A, B, and C. So we've also got the wall near you if you need it. Our first option will be to stay upright, ball the foot into the strap, rise up, extend out. We'll play with A, B, and C. If you would like to, and adding more of this core work and more of the effort here in the hips, we're going to start in chair pose. Find the strap or yogic toe lock. And with us putting all this weight into the right leg, just like we've been doing a couple of times, we're lifting the left. We're rising up or drawing the leg with us to rise up into A, into B, and into C. We're going to do that on both sides, all right? So if there's stuff going on in the low back, this transition might be a lot, which will be the case then where you'll use the strap or hold the knee lifted. And once we're here, you do not have to have the leg extended. You can do A, B, ooh, too fast, C, as well as having the wall there beside you. So if you would like the core portion, you're going to sit down with me into chair pose. If you'd rather not, you're going to stay standing. We're going to stand first with the right foot, so either yogic toe lock with the left big toe or using the strap under the ball of the left foot, keeping it taut, but so enough that you can let the strap slide to open up. And we're going to lean in a little bit more if you're taking the yogic toe lock to take the toe. As you put more weight into the right foot, lift the left foot ever so slightly away from the floor. Just feel what it's like to put more weight into that right leg. Then as we sit deeper into the chair, we start to send that left foot forward, and then start to lengthen and stand through the right leg. And whether you have the knee bent or not, just one more breath. On the exhale, we're going to take the left foot out to the left, but keep that left hip point pressing forward. Try to find mountain pose without leaning back. You can reach off to the side if you need to. One more thing we did last time, if you'd like to go further with the opening, spin the inner left heel a little higher so the toes spin out, and maybe that gives you the space to take the leg wider. And it just changes its space in the socket. Inhale to come back to center. We've been here for a while. If you need to come down, give yourself both feet on the floor for a break. We'll all bend the left knee. Take hold of the opposite, the hand to the foot, or both ends of the strap in your right hand. And as you maybe re-extend through the left leg, reach back through the left hand. Padangusthasana C. Because we're here and someone's got to take a break. If you would like to, as you come forward, release the strap but keep the leg lifted. Find all that core work to keep your leg lifted and use your full exhale to lower the leg to the floor. Put both feet back on the floor. Make a nice big sigh. As I said last week, that is a beast of a sequence. And while you're catching your breath and just feeling into both feet, certainly it isn't exactly the same as the sequence we did with a hand and foot on the floor, but was there a sense of similarity in actions and getting the hip open so now that we are doing this just on one leg, we feel a little more stable or grounded? Any questions? All right, cool. We'll try the second side. If you've never heard me say this before, sometimes it's easier because we've done it once already. Sometimes it's easier because it's our stronger side. Either choosing to stand with a strap underneath the ball of the left foot or sitting into your chair. Strap under the ball or yogic toe lock. And as we put a lot more weight into the left foot, lift the right foot ever so slightly away from the floor. And either come to rise up, keeping that knee bent, or sit back into the chair so you can send the right foot forward some. So as you stand through the left leg, we rise up into Padangusthasana A. And notice the difference. Next, inhale. We're going to start to take the right foot to the right, but keep the right hip point pressing forward. Maybe right hand to the hip as we stay more upright like mountain pose. Maybe reach out to the side. Maybe we lift the inner right heel to spin the right toes a little more out to the right to give us more opening through the hips. But inhale to come back to center. Stand on both feet if you need to. Otherwise, take both straps into the left hand or take a grip of the outer right foot. And as you extend the foot back out, left side of the torso is spinning to the right, reaching back behind ourselves with the right hand. Padangusthasana C. Inhale, come back to center. And if you want the extra work, keep your leg lifted with control. Lower down for a full breath. Bend to both knees. Let yourself drape over. Absolutely deserve it. And we're going to be done standing on both feet. You are welcome to lower down and simply take a step back into table. You can move through a flow if you would really like to move through a flow. And when you come up from your back bend in the floor, you're going to rise into a tabletop position. Good. All right. Sit back on the heels, however you would like to, just to see here. We're going to at least start with a block here. Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, right? A blanket here. We can certainly sit up on a block for this next sequence. Might probably, I didn't actually try this, probably not come into crouch asana like we did last week. So let me just show here real fast. For the people who weren't here last week, is everyone familiar with Heron's pose or crouch asana? We were playing with it last week. It was a Sukhasana style leg, the yogic toe lock again, or the strap. We rise up and out. Maybe we take hold of both edges of the feet and we start to draw shin toward the forehead or nose. So we were playing last week with Sukhasana leg, and you're more than welcome to do that again. But we're playing with a half Virasana leg, and we'll do something first. So we're still getting the sensation of it, and if people want to rise up into it, you're more than welcome to. This other pose is a mouthful. It's called Triyang Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana. Say that while you're doing the pose. So it is half Virasana, essentially, through the leg. We were here already for some of us. Sitting up on the block makes this more accessible for more people. And it's half Virasana, half Paschimottanasana, or essentially Dandasana where we were. Now we're sitting up on the block, so it makes this next part maybe a little less accessible for some people. We'll see. But we can still come into crouch asana from here. Again, either using the strap or yogic toe lock, drawing the knee in, drawing the knee to the outer shoulder, extending through the leg, taking hold of the foot on both sides. And now with our block here, giving us a lot more stability with this back foot down, we're pushing into the top of the foot. We're really hugging both knees to center, and we're lifting through the heart and drawing shin to forehead, all right? Regardless of how close it gets, yes? Yes, strap, absolutely. Strap or yogic toe lock is perfectly fine. If you would rather stay here, and if like the coming up into the other piece feels like too much, what this pose fully is, see Elisa, have a good rest of your day. Thanks for coming. This is technically a forward fold. So rather than staying upright, we're gonna start to come forward, folding over the front leg while we have our back leg in half hero's pose. So we'll start with, I use both blocks with the blanket on top. It just means that there's more space and it's easier to switch sides when we might need to. But we'll start by leaning a little bit to the left so we can bring our right leg into Virasana. And rather than the right knee wide, we want the right knee hugging to center toward the midline. We lean to the right to extend out through the left. Press down through the heel, push through the big toe ball mound like you're hitting the gas pedal. Because we have a lot of distance between us and the floor, as we're pushing down muscularly through the inner left thigh, we're also pushing down through the heel and hugging the heel back to the sit bone, so that will keep the left knee from locking out, which does not feel good, especially when we're trying to make a transition. So for some of you who want to stay here, you'll stay here just like this. Getting used to the sensation on this leg, on this leg. If you know that you have no interest in coming up into Heron's pose, you can start to walk the hands forward. You can use the strap. You can take hold of the ankle, the shin, the edges of the feet, and fold forward like Paschimottanasana. And you can stay there for 3 breaths. Your choices. If you like to go further, either the strap or yogic toe lock, put a little bend to that front leg so we have a lot more accessibility. Find your connection to the foot. Draw left knee to outer left shoulder to start. And then as the leg moves towards straight, the knee and elbow kind of come in line. Good. Maybe staying here, inner left thigh stays heavy, but now we draw shoulder blade onto the back. We find this core work of lifting more of knee to heart, and maybe it is taking hold of the foot totally. Doesn't have to go that far. Again, for people who haven't heard me say it a million times in class before, I have gorilla arms, so it's a little bit easier for some of these bigger reaches. Good. On the exhale, knee bends enough to bring it back down. Pause for a second. Felt all right on people's knees, hips? It's different though, right? But nothing like, it was just different feeling, nothing that felt uncomfortable or strain. All right, good. Huh? It hurt. What do you mean by hurt?
Hurt my knee and my hip just didn't want to go that way.
All right, so we're not going to go that way. You came out of it. Was there a point, was it like from the beginning it didn't feel right, or was there a point where you noticed it went from stretch to strain? From the beginning, all right. So, but here was fine. Yeah, all right, cool. That's going to be where you stay. So now we're going to lean a little bit to the right. Bring your left foot, left leg into Virasana. Lean to the left as you extend out through the right. Find your trying Mukha Eka Pada Paschimottanasana. And looking out for the knee. Foot is flexed, heel is pressing down, hugging back in, so we're deeply integrated into the hip socket, either staying upright or exhale, folding. And in our folding, when we're mindful that we aren't coming into a cat stretch so much, but we're keeping the heart lifting, and the folding is happening because core is drawing us further into this. Maybe we're moving into Heron's pose or another variation of Heron's pose. As we bring the right heel in a little bit, make use of the strap or yogic toe lock. Find all the stability here in this left leg. And on the next inhale, draw or lift the right foot, draw heel to sit bone, draw knee to outer shoulder. And on your next inhale, as you extend that leg, different on that side, better? Maybe? Oh. Well, then that's good. You're further on this side, right? All right, cool. Maybe take hold of the foot. If you've got the strap, you can take both hands to the strap. And as the thigh descends, we reach out through the heel. It starts to lift the shin. And as your shoulders on the back, if there's space there and stronger contraction through the core, the foot starts to drop a little bit more. Good. Nice, everyone. On the exhale, let that knee bend, bring it back down to the floor, lean a little bit to your right, free up that left leg, shake it all out. We're going to come right into Shavasana, as is usually the case for me, right at 1 o'clock. If you have to leave at 1 o'clock, I understand, give yourself Shavasana now. But we've done a lot of contraction through the front body, and so we have two options for undoing a lot of this contraction work. And that is either going to be bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. You can use blocks underneath your hips if you like to make it more restorative and still give the space for all of the opening through the front side of the body. If you would like something more active though, rather than coming onto your backs, we're going to come onto our hands behind us with our legs just as they were or would be in our bridge setup for Purvottanasana, or reverse table. Either the fingers are pointing away from each other for more openness through the chest, or pointing toward the fronts of the mat for more stretch through the back of the shoulders. And on the inhale, whichever variation you're setting up for, push down into the parts that are supposed to stay on the floor to press the knees forward, hips to the sky. And if you're in Purvottanasana, you're going to keep your gaze looking down the front side of the body. Hug shoulder blades onto the back, hug elbows to center, stand down firmly through both feet if you're in Purvottanasana, and maybe without letting the head drop back, reach the crown of the head to the back of the room. You're trying to touch it with the top of the head. So we're neutralizing here through the neck, and something we did a little bit earlier, if you would like to, you can take a tilt or tip the chin up so that the crown of the head descends instead of the back of the head falling toward the floor. Getting a deeper stretch here through the neck. Good. Activate the glutes to lift the hips a little bit higher. Good, everybody. Nice. And on your next exhale, slowly lower down to the floor. You can draw both knees into your chest here before we come into Shavasana. You can come right into Shavasana if you would like to. If you would like a little bit more of hip opening, knees moving wide, you can make use of the blocks to give support to the outer thighs to come into Baddha Konasana legs. Either one hand on the heart and belly, maybe both hands, one on each of your inner thighs to add some extra down energy through the body. Whatever you need to do or want to do for your final relaxation pose for about the next 2.5 minutes. As always, each exhale is an opportunity to release the things that take you away from final relaxation. The parts of the mind that are already rushing into the next hour, the next day. The parts of the mind that are still drawn to this morning or last week. The breath be about grounding yourself in the present moment. Give yourself the space and the freedom from all of the to-do lists, all of the expectations. Not to avoid them, but to give yourself the space for clarity so that you can return to them with a different mindset, a different perspective, a different relationship to those things. Let your next in-breath be deeper than the last. Your next in-breath deeper still. Drawing your awareness back to the surface and beginning to make little movements in your body to connect that rising awareness back fully integrated into your body. And you can start to make bigger movements and bigger movements, including, if you would like to, bring the legs to touch and reaching the arms overhead. And inhale, stretching fingertips away from toe tips. Exhaling, heels pressing away from fingertips. Next inhale, toes push away once again. And on the exhale that follows, draw knees to chest. Give yourself a nice big hug. Rock a little bit left and right and find where it feels right on the back. If there is some sensation, it feels like it could really be rolled out. You're welcome to roll off to one side to push yourself up to have a seat, or rock and roll up to have a seat. And with your gaze soft and unfocused, or your eyes still closed, again letting the hands rest palms down, or once again returning to heart center in Anjali Mudra. Whether you are embodying this intention with the placement of the hands or just your own awareness, knowing always on the mat and off the mat that your breath in your body is telling you things. You get to listen, determine your ability, determine your interest, and look out for yourself and the choices that you are making always. Sealing this intention in and bring the practice to the close here with the sound of one Om if you would like to. Exhale completely. To inhale fully. The light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Nothing is taking me off the schedule here anytime soon, so the rest of the Wednesdays and Mondays for the month are unaffected. That might change in August for a trip that I have that it's on my calendar. It's supposed to be a trip. There is no trip yet to fill the dates, but there's a chance I will not be here for a class in August, so we got some time for that though. Let's see, this Friday is a Get Upside Down inversions class with Larry, 6:30 to 8. As I was mentioning on Monday, he also teaches the 5 to 6 o'clock class, so if you're in for a very long yoga practice, you can do the 5 to 6 and then do 90 minutes of prepping for and doing some inversions. I'm hoping to be here for that one. And then next Friday, the 21st, Anisha will be here leading a full spectrum yoga class, 90 minutes as well, at 6:30 to 8 o'clock time, with Nara and her father, playing the tabla. So there's going to be some live music. There's a time, because I was this last time with them, where you can play around with it. You'll practice making some of the sounds and the beats and like what those things mean with our vocal cords to go along with them. But that's also coming up here in another week and a half, I guess. More things coming as well. Follow us online, social media, whatever web blasts or email blasts and things go out. Always lots of stuff happening. Definitely everything picks up in September when the 200-hour teacher training restarts. And then our weekends here are very full with teacher trainings and all the other things that happen once people are back from the summer. So be well, stay safe. If you would like to, if there's requests or wants for classes in the future, I'm here now. You can let me know. You can find me on Instagram at bsyogi215. Let me know, and I'll incorporate some stuff in that people are asking for. But we do have a couple more weeks where we will be playing with Padangusthasana A, B, and C in some of the different ways that we can. Probably getting to a place where at the end of the month we might try an arm balance or something. But things to think about, things that might be interesting. Be well, stay safe, enjoy the heck out of yourselves, have a great weekend. I'll see everybody around the studio here in the future, either